Florida State adds speed to its 2026 recruiting class.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to Locked On Seminoles. I'm your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football writer and recruiting analyst. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. Truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by Game Time. Download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. The Noles add speed to their 2026 recruiting class, an excellent pickup, and it is the theme of today throughout the show. We're going to be talking about wide receiver recruiting, what it means to Florida State historically, and for the near future for Florida State, because quite honestly, the wide receiver room is in a bit of flux. There's some young talent, but is it ready to step forward? You need more talent to come in the door to push the upperclassmen. We're seeing a change of the guard at Florida State, and they need to make sure they hit the home run this year with wide receiver recruiting. So I'm going to focus on that. And then tomorrow we're going to preview the entirety of the official visit list for Florida State this weekend. Been waiting as long as I can because so many of these kids changed their visit dates. It's really hard to keep up. So I wanted to wait to the last absolute moment to do so. But let's get started with the commitment. And this is a player that we had talked about earlier this week, Brandon Bennett, American Heritage High School, 6 foot, 170 pounds. He can fly. This is a young man that ran sub 10.5 when he was a sophomore in high school and a part of the 4x1 relay at American Heritage that set a national record. They were all sophomores at the time. So they obviously have a lot of track speed in that football program because several of them were football players, and it's not like they're getting any slower. So Bennett had offers from numerous programs, but he had a great visit to FSU. He's going to be a Nole. And now let's look at it from a broader perspective. What should Florida State fans expect for the rest of this recruiting class? Adding players, who did they keep at the wide receiver position? Let's talk about that in conjunction with Bennett. So I went back and watched Bennett's film again, and I'm just going to go over a few notes that I have about him. Good news, bad news, what's next? Not sure. There's a little bit of everything here, which is typical with a high school prospect. But one thing was obvious. Even against South Florida players, I'm glad I watched his film because it was a reminder. He's not just fast. It didn't look normal. Like he was running by guys that are Division I players sometimes, and it wasn't even close. He's one of those guys that just has that rare elite speed. If your technique is not sound, and I mean across the board on a rep, unless the quarterback just misses and misses badly, it's hard to overthrow Brandon Bennett. It's a touchdown. Florida State doesn't normally get those kind of guys. Not lately. They used to get them all the time. But lately they missed out on a few of those kids, and they went with more big-bodied players, and that's fine too. But the ideal scenario is to get both. Not one or the other, both. Benson was supposed to be that player for Florida State last year, but obviously the passing game, it never really got going. It was unhinged. He has a similar kind of speed, but I just think Bennett, the way he moves, the way he tracks the football, he's a better football prospect, in my opinion, and good luck to Benson at Oregon. That's where he transferred to. But Florida State has a scenario now where they've got elite speed with Brandon Bennett, and they also have Darion Williams in the class, at least for now. We're going to talk about that here in a minute. And they were in on several other guys, some bigger receivers, some with speed, but a variety of players. Don't look now, but Florida State could end up with a great wide receiver class, or maybe not. It is a strong argument for one to make that Florida State's wide receiver class is absolutely the most difficult to project at any position they have, even offensive line, which is saying a lot because they've got so many offensive linemen that they're recruiting, but they're in on a ton of guys. I went through the list, started writing them down, and I'm like, this is hard. But if they can keep Darion Williams and they add Bennett and just one more guy, it would be an outstanding haul. If they added two more, it's a national top 5 kind of class, possibly at the wide receiver position. So that's the good news. Now, what does Bennett need around him to help complement Florida State wholeheartedly? What kind of players are going to make him the best? Well, watching this film, the ironic part was it was a lot of posts, a lot of deep routes, a reverse. There was really nothing intermediate or short on his highlight film. Not saying that he didn't catch any of those, because I'm sure he caught some, but by and large, he is a go-get-it guy down the field. I really have no idea what kind of route runner he is beyond the deep routes. It's kind of puzzling. They run an excellent program at American Heritage. Smitty's one of the best coaches in South Florida and the nation. His staff does a great job from top to bottom. Doesn't matter what position it is. So I was a little puzzled by this, and makes me wonder what he needs to work on, because he's been a track kid. I don't know how much time he's set aside to run routes, but Bennett scores touchdowns, and Diabell, the quarterback who's committed to Texas, by the way, gets him the football. So I'm guessing that's something he needs to work on, or I would have seen it on film. Again, pure guess on my part, but I would have liked to have seen some comebacks, some over routes, some slants, some different things underneath, where it's more about the technical aspects of playing wide receiver, as opposed to, I'm going to make one quick move. If I get my shoulders next to yours, it's over, and it is over. There's really not that many guys in the country that can run with Bennett. I didn't see it. So I think he probably needs a year to get developed, but that means an underneath guy, especially another slot receiver or a big-bodied guy that's a true possession receiver, is needed in this class. But you put him next to Darion Williams, who can really run too, another kid that has all kinds of athleticism. He's out of playing high school in Tampa. You'd have your flanker and possibly your slot. I think either one of them, they'd be interchangeable pretty much. You'd need a big-bodied guy, but I'd also like another slot that's more of the crafty variety. We're going to talk about that here in a minute too. So what would be next for Florida State? I think just let's talk about Darion directly. It's securing his commitment. Florida has had him on campus. There's a lot of rumors that Florida thinks they can get him flipped. I've had people tell me Florida's trending. I've had multiple people tell me that for him, but Darion hasn't made that move. Is it something that Florida State is still right there with him? I don't know, but the Gators have been recruiting Darion for a very, very long time. Maybe this is something that it's almost like a replacement, because FSU thinks Darion's going to flip. With flips, it's impossible. The kids aren't going to tell anybody really anything. We'll see what happens, but it's possible. On the other side, we've got a bunch of kids to talk about in regards to the other visits. But in my opinion, the most important thing is to keep your commitments, especially from a political perspective. It's not a good look to lose kids to Miami, to Clemson, to Florida. You're probably going to lose one a year just in the nature of recruiting. I don't care how good or bad your program is right now. Kids flip a lot, but you'd really like to not lose one to Florida. But we'll see. Darion Williams is a heck of a player too. So I'd like to see him stick with the Noles and add Bennett. But there's also several other kids we got to talk about. So let's do that next here on Locked On Seminoles. A bunch of wide receiver prospects to talk about, including a player Florida State is trying to flip. The NBA Finals are underway. It is a fantastic series between the Pacers and the Oklahoma City Thunder. All the intensity, they're down to the wire action. You're seeing some incredible games. And this last one, it was probably about as good a game as you're going to see. And to be honest, the best player in the game was a guy who came off the bench and scored 27 points in just 22 minutes. Benedict Mathurin, 27 points in 22 minutes. I hope that you had a chance to see it, because he is an awesome player. But Game Time could have helped you get into the arena to see the Pacers and the Thunder, and for a lot less. They've got deals going up to the minute before tip-off, up to 60% off ticket deals. Check out Game Time for that. And if you're interested in anything with a concert, anything with a play, going to the movie theater, anything else like that, Game Time has a great opportunity for you, because they are not just about sports. It can be baseball too. That's great. But they're a little bit of everything for everybody. The Game Time app is also very easy to use, and you have the ability to see your seat right there from your phone on the app. So Game Time is an awesome place to be. You can also take the guesswork out of buying tickets with Game Time. Just download the Game Time app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONCollege for $20 off your first purchase. Terms apply. Again, create an account and redeem code LOCKEDONCOLLEGE for $20 off. Download Game Time today. Last minute tickets, lowest price guaranteed. The Florida State Seminoles are in the midst of the recruiting run, and I thank you for coming in here to check out all the latest news on what's going on. Again, Florida State has picked up a commitment from Brandon Bennett, and we talked a little bit about Darion Williams as well during the first part of the show, but now let's transition to a possible flip commitment. That is Devin Carter, Dexter Carter's son, played at 86 to 90, I believe, for Florida State. Running back, went to the San Francisco 49ers, if I recall correctly, in the NFL. Played for a long time, legacy. His son committed to Florida State, flipped to Auburn. Now they're trying to flip him back. From talking to Zach Blackerby at Auburn, that's one of the guys. There's a little chatter about Florida State being able to get that one done. I don't know the timing of that, but it's ironic. I just ranked him as one of the top slot receivers in the country. I think he could also play outside. He's a little bit like Brandon Bennett. He's a guy that can take the top off. He has the ability to beat you with routes. He's got great hands, and he's a legacy recruit. So before I forget, I wanted to get him in this mix. Florida State is not messing around when it comes to speed in this class. They're really trying to go after some of the top guys, and Devin Carter is one of those guys that could absolutely beat you down the field or with just a screen, making a couple guys miss, and up the sideline he goes for a touchdown. He's at Douglas County High School just outside Atlanta. It's one of the premier programs inside the state of Georgia. Now, let's get into the broader overall look at this list. And I'd still be remiss if I didn't bring up Ephraim White, which I don't know for sure if Florida State's going to play him at receiver. That's why I didn't bring him up during the first segment. I go back and forth if he's going to end up playing wide out. He's going to end up playing corner. He could possibly play safety, but he's another guy that can fly. He's from Vero Beach and he's committed to Florida State, but he has also been toying around with possibly going somewhere else. He's looked at NC State. He's looked at Notre Dame. We'll see. But I don't think it'll be Notre Dame if he ends up somewhere else. And I could be completely wrong. No offense to NC State, but their offense was hard to watch last year, and they've just not been very good offensively for most of the last few years. I doubt that's where he goes. Does anybody else come at Ephraim White, and does he end up taking visits officially to those schools either this week, next week? I need to see that. And the same thing for this fall. Once you're looking around, to me, until you sign, you're on flip watch. That's just the way I look at it. I don't care what kids say publicly. They always say lots of things. I follow the visits, not the comments. So that's another player that Florida State would like to keep in the fold, but it's not a lock. We'll see. Ephraim White's been committed to Florida State. I believe it was October of 2023 off the top of my head when he made the pledge to play for Mike Norvell and the Noles. And he can fly. Again, another kid, super athletic. Probably all of the kids that I've talked about today so far kind of fit the Bobby Bowden mold. Really athletic young men, could play multiple spots. Bowden loved the ability to have guys that can play on either side of the football. And you figure it out once you get to Tallahassee. I love that. Absolutely love it. Now Florida State's just got to secure them. Finally, let's just go down the list of the kids that they could be the game changers to complement the speed. Top of the board is Calvin Russell. We'll see if that official visit takes place. We'll see if the visit ends up being worthwhile to keep here in Syracuse. I've heard Miami. I've heard Michigan, several other schools, but out of Miami Northwestern, that's a kid they've worked on for a long time. I really don't know what to expect from Calvin. A great kid. He's a lot of fun to be around and interview, but 6'5", 185 pounds. He's the rare big-bodied receiver that everybody wants. He's got to add weight, though. He's really, really thin, but that frame, again, kind of a Bobby Bowden special. He took a lot of raw kids out of high school. There's nothing wrong with what he can do one-on-one. There's nothing wrong with what he can do in terms of his ability to make guys miss, even at 6'5". It's rare. So I understand why everybody's still recruiting him, but I don't think Florida State's in the top group. This might be a recruitment that goes all the way to signing day. I just want to circle him because we might end up talking about him in October or November. Wouldn't shock me. I don't even care if he's planning to take an official visit now or later or whatever. That's just a kid that I think you're going to have to get back on campus regardless of this summer. You've got to get him back on campus in the fall. If you get his commitment, if you don't get his commitment, if it's somebody else, if you don't get an unofficial visit in the fall, you're probably not signing Calvin Russell. He loves, not likes, loves the recruiting process. That kid travels more than about any player in the country, but he's elite. He can get away with it and play the game more than most kids because he's a big-bodied receiver at 6'5". It's that simple. Elite players get elite rules. So we'll see what happens with him, and Florida State's still trying there. So big-time talent. Julius Miles, this is a kid that doesn't get a lot of conversation. He was at Freeport High School last year. I think he's still there. I don't believe he's changed. He's a hooper. He's a guy that's similar in some ways to Calvin Russell because Calvin's a hooper as well. And he's just got the athleticism you're looking for. If you can go up and get alley-oop dunks, there's a pretty good chance you can play football. This is a young man that has that ability, and more importantly, at 6'5", 6'6", somewhere in that range, could be your flex tight end. How Norvell ends up using him if he came to Florida State, I'm not sure, but they have a propensity to use bigger receivers more than about any other program in the country. And not that it really matters if you're labeled tight end or wide receiver did catch the football. In today's world, he's a flex tight end. Does it matter? No, not really. He could be your boundary. He's roughly 200 pounds or so, maybe 210. 6'6" guys like that, they don't come along. He's at a very small school, so it's hard to really grade him. Competition's not great. It's just not. I-10 corridor, small school is what it is, but he dominates, and he is a legit hooper. So this is another kid Florida State's trying to get. He's going to be coming in for a visit. We'll see how that goes. And I also think that a kid like that, if he's from the I-10 corridor and you're really trying to build your program again, even if you weren't 100% sure, take the local kid every time. Guarantee you Bowden and his staff would have, and I'm pretty sure that this staff will as well. Jason Lopez. This is what I was talking about earlier when I said the more traditional slot that's crafty. Plays at Chaminade Madonna, same program that's had, Lord only knows how many receivers, how many DB skill guys go all over. Florida State's got players at Chaminade now, and they'll probably always have some. Jeremiah Smith played there. I mean, their receiver coach there is excellent. I'm curious to see where he goes, but right now it looks like Miami-Florida State battle. Will it end up being a situation where Florida State pulls ahead? He's supposed to come into FSU this weekend. Maybe, maybe not. But they really do need at least one really true slot in the natural, basic sense. Not just the burner guy. There's nothing wrong with Devin Carter. There's nothing wrong with, Brandon Bennett. But somebody that's third to sixth that's just going to slice you and dice you as a route runner. They don't get Jason Lopez. Who would it be that fits that role? Just a pure, unadulterated route runner. Forget the speed part. 3rd and 4, he's your moneymaker. That kind of player is hard to find. Ja'Kai Douglas was that guy for FSU last year. Somebody like that. I mean, he could run, but he was a good route runner. He was annoying to try to defend. I think Florida State needs a player like that, and Lopez is almost identical in terms of his frame and his savviness, if you will. Those are the kind of players that make a huge difference in college football, and if you don't get them, you're probably going to lose out down the road because you have to play against them. Again, Miami is the most likely destination for Lopez if it's not Florida State, and he's from Chaminade. You'd always like to keep that pipeline open. We'll come back. We're going to finish up the wide receiver recruiting discussion right here on Locked on Seminoles. If Florida State adds one more thing to this recruiting class besides the speed, what would it be? I say it's the big body guy like Calvin Russell, the long and athletic player. Now, there is another form of that would be nice. And Florida State has certainly had their share of these kinds of players here lately. A big-bodied receiver, good speed, but he's going to win with strength and his frame as much as he is with speed and length. Just like he's a concrete block, and the catch radius is going to be a little bit more than what a DB can handle. A 6'3" guy. Keon was that guy a couple years ago, obviously. Dad Johnny, he was a condor. Some of those kinds of players are difficult to find, absolutely. But if you can get one, and again, if you pair it with somebody like Darion, somebody like maybe they get Devin, maybe they get a couple other guys, whatever it may be, but they got Bennett in the fold now too. Those guys don't always end up getting double covered if you have that elite speed to go with them. Even the 23 Florida State team. did not have the burner guy that was a consistent weapon, that was ready for full throttle. If they would have been even better, because both the receivers, they could run. They didn't have a 4-3 guy out there at that spot. Well, adding Bennett kind of takes care of that. That's your 4-3 guy. But what if they could somehow flip Madden Williams from Texas A&M? He's from one of my favorite programs in the country, St. John Bosco. He's a kid that's going to be coming in. I believe it's this coming weekend. And again, I'm going to do a full preview of this weekend. But he's a kid that's 200 pounds or so, strong, really good at the catch point. If you can find players like that, it's going to make a difference because, again, it's about complementing what you've got going on. And let's not forget about Landon Thomas. They're going to get him for at least the 26 season, if not the 27 season as well. They're going to be a problem for a lot of secondaries in terms of their size. But they don't have somebody, at least yet. They've got some promising guys. I'm staying away from talking about the current roster today. But they don't have anybody yet in the younger ranks, freshmen and sophomores, that we know for a fact, based on what they've actually done in Doak Campbell, that they're ready for prime time. And you still need another wave, even if they did. This could be your guy. He's a power player. Madden Williams has the size. He's over 6 foot. He's 200 pounds. That's the kind of player Florida State needs. You can play him at the boundary, or you can play him at flanker, and you can move him around, especially in Gus Malzahn's offense. Having that big-bodied guy, because he likes to throw so many verts, it's not just going to be to a Brandon Bennett. It's going to be to a different type of player sometimes. Just because they're one-on-one, you get a 5'11" corner out there against him. Bennett running down the field gets the double. On the other side, you got somebody like Madden Williams. That can be your moneymaker. Gus's offense has done that for years. When he was at Auburn, when he's at UCF, and he'll do it again at Florida State. He's always had a big-bodied guy to do that. I don't think there's any doubt. This is another kid that could be that guy. Finally, this is a player I need to research, and it just shows you how evolved recruiting has become in all these different programs. Raven Gap is a private school, kind of a mini IMG, but it's up on the edge of the mountains in Georgia. Raven Gap is private, and they take on some of the schools in North Carolina and stuff, some of the private schools over there. But they got kids from all over the country and outside the country that go there. And got a visitor, Isaac Obraka. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but he's a wide receiver. Need to worry about him. He's coming in for an official visit too. Florida State, their list of wide receivers is good. I'll trust anybody at Raven Gap. They've got kids all over the country, SEC, ACC, Big Ten. Really good program. So we'll see how that goes. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Tomorrow, again, it's probably going to be a longer show, probably be over 30 minutes. Going to break down everybody that's allegedly, again, these visit lists change like the wind, but we're going to break down everybody that's supposed to come in for Florida State this weekend. Really, really important weekend for Mike Norvell and his staff, and it's a great list. That is tomorrow's show, so like and subscribe. We will see you again tomorrow on Locked On Seminoles.